Well, good morning, everyone. We are breaking through. Lori, Darius, good to see you guys. This is a special 4th of July week agent power huddle because that means only the few, the proud that are really like, man, I'm committed to like focusing my mind and tuning it up on a daily basis are going to show up this week live because everyone else is on vacation. So welcome. Or maybe you're on vacation and you're here too and you're like, that's okay. I'm on vacation. I'm still here. We're talking today about one of my favorite topics, and Lori and Darius, if you're just here to listen in, all good. You're welcome. Welcome to listen in. My plan was I figured we'd have a small crew today, and if we wanted to be more interactive, I'm happy to tailor this discussion because this is one of my absolute favorite topics to talk about, which is the cardinal sins of text, DMs, and emails, i.e., how do we make our communication more efficient so people actually understand us and we get responses more often, right? There is nothing worse than crafting the perfect email or writing the perfect message and then having no response on it, or people responding to like half of what you wrote, not anything else. And so we can tailor this discussion around more when you're in transactions, right? The communication with the other parties, the other agents, the other vendors. We can tailor your communication around lead generation, so copywriting around, and there's some basic rules that'll apply no matter which portion we're talking about. But I think it's really interesting that we don't really talk about communication as realtors that often. Like it comes up in the lead generation context, like the way you write ads, if you're doing any of that sort of thing, that comes up sometimes for some agents. But I rarely see training for agents in terms of how do you communicate with other agents. I don't know about you guys. Like Lori, do you ever see much communication on like how you communicate with other agents and how you communicate with escrow, title? Like, do you see much training on this ever?
No.
No, right? But so much of what we do, and when I sit and I talk in most of my listing appointments, I don't know if you're the same way. And thank you for interacting, Lori. But not going to put you on the spot. I was more just checking in to make sure I was tracking here. When I sit in a listing appointment, part of what I talk about with our value proposition as agents, and I think going forward on the buyer consultation side is, we become now needing to do a buyer consultation prior to getting hired. I think part of what our value proposition will be is the fact that we have communication skills. And if you could explain that your communication skills could actually help net a seller more money or save a buyer money or whatever it is, these communication skills could actually be translated into real world impact more than just I make communication, the transaction goes smoothly because I know how to communicate, but you can actually translate this into real benefits for your clients. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Cool. All right. So we're going to do a little experiment. Ready? So, if you've ever been through a discussion on communication with me, you'll know I always kind of start off the same way because this visual has stuck with me for years. And then I'm going to get into some stuff that if you've been through a discussion on communication and the cardinal sins, I'll cover some things that I don't normally cover this morning. But if just in case we've never been through this discussion together, this is the visual that will help you. I always like to say, don't picture a semi-truck driver. And right, what do I mean by that? And if you've been through this discussion, I'll put this on the screen. Got a little visual. This is the very first rule when you're talking about the cardinal sins. I always say, don't picture a semi-truck driver, but really, actually, I'm going to want you to picture it. So notice when you say don't do something, the first thing you do is like, no, I'm thinking about it right now. I can't stop thinking about it. Stop thinking about it. So that's good because I want you thinking about a semi-truck driver. Because here's what it is. If you're not driving right now, you can go ahead and close your eyes. We'll do a little visualization. But everything we talk about in communication, and this is written communication, whether it's a text, a DM, an email, I want you to have the same image going through your mind. So if you close your eyes, I want you to picture you are sitting behind the wheel of a semi-truck, like a giant big rig. You got your hands on the wheel, you're driving down the interstate, you're going 70 miles an hour, 75 miles an hour, you're going fast and you got a full, this giant vehicle behind you, all right? As you are driving down the road, you decide you're thirsty. So you pick up the giant drink that's next to you. So you got one hand on the wheel, and now visualize with the other hand, you pick up this cup and you're sipping off this drink, right? And you're driving along the road and you got your drink, and all of a sudden, right, you're like, I'm kind of hungry too. So now you start to take your knee and you get the steering wheel with your knee, and maybe you got cruise control on, you pick up a sandwich, you got a sandwich in one hand, you got your drink in the other, take a bite of your sandwich. It's kind of messy, you're trying to like not make a big mess, and you're drinking out of your drink, right? And you're still driving this semi-truck down the road 75 miles an hour. And suddenly your cell phone beeps or vibrates or whatever sort of notification sound, and you glance over at your cell phone. All right, everybody open your eyes. Now, I'm not going to make you go, you're not going through a car accident, or it's not terrible, but like you at that moment when your cell phone vibrates, how much mental energy are you going to give to that phone alert, to that message that popped up at that moment? You might give some attention to it, right? Because like it's your phone, you're where it's at, you hear that sound, but you're still driving this truck. You're still eating a sandwich. You still got a drink in your hand. That's that visual. I want to give you that because if that's how much mental energy you're going to assume that people are putting on your messages when they first look at them, it'll help you craft them in a way that you want to catch their attention and let them consume it more easily. Does that make sense? Right? That's why I do that visual, because it always sticks with me. I know. I just always, I forget who taught me that at this point. Debbie said, let it breathe. Yeah, that's a big one. So this is one of the biggest rules I have, and then we'll dive into some of the deeper ones, because you got to get this one correct. Whether you are doing a text message, an email, or a Facebook post, I think this is probably one of the most important ones you could have, which is there's a ratio you want to have, meaning like the balance between blank space and text. Even in a text message, right? Some of you write text messages using voice to text, and you never actually type in your phone. I'm okay with that. Is anyone here guilty of only using voice to text? No? Okay. So my business partner's been my mother for 25 years. I love, she does a lot of voice to text, and I have a few other people in my life that I know they send me these voice to text, and I understand roughly what they're saying. But have you guys ever gotten a message from someone who did voice to text? It was this giant paragraph of text, and you're like, I don't know where it stops or starts. And there's so many spelling errors in it, which the spelling error is okay, but it's more like the words. You're like, I don't even know what words are in here. Like, so this will tie right into my next rule, right? So when you have this giant scrolling block of text, you want to break it up. You can use bullet points. You could use emojis, however you want to do it. This is why I want to tailor this discussion, because depending on the medium we want to talk about, you're going to do a Facebook post, could look a little different than a text message, might look a little different than an Instagram message. Every platform we're on, we're going to craft the look and feel of it, but the idea will be the same, which is that big block of text will be gone. You're going to use shorter, smaller little pieces with a lot of blank space around it, a lot of white space, right? So this, though, will tie into one of the next rules that I don't talk about this one as often because I find people tend to think I'm insane, but I want to, let's see here. I got a slide in this one somewhere. I'm jumping through my slide deck, but I can see only the visual on this one. I can say it out loud. Ready? Write this one down. Reread your messages out loud. Debbie's nodding her head because she's very detail-oriented. Laura's like, okay, I got that. And you think I'm talking maybe just about emails, right? You've crafted this beautiful email. I'm talking text messages, Instagram messages, DMs. If I could teach you anything today in communication, which would be to slow down and reread your message out loud. It's not just reread it, it's rereading it out loud, because the way most people read messages, consider this. When you look at a message, right? When you read a message, do you hear your own voice in your head reading that message? If not, you're probably speed reading and you're in a very small group of people, because most people, when they read stuff, like, go ahead, look at something in your wall, look around, and do you hear your voice in your head when you read something, right? You probably do. Most people, when they read things, right, unless you've been trained to speed read, which is a very small group, you're actually going to hear a voice, usually it's your own voice, in your head reading things. So if you read it out loud, you're going to hear the tone, right? Debbie, say out loud, would you just put in the chat box. What did you say you just did?
I have a very sensitive situation with a seller right now, and there's been some high emotions involved. And so she corresponded with me via email this morning, and I'm literally drafting the response before this call, drafted the response, and my best friend knows about this whole situation. And I literally just sent her what I proposed to respond to this person, to my seller, to check it for tone, is it factual or is it emotional? To check it for, is this appropriate to say? Am I wrong for saying this? And because it's so highly emotional, so this totally ties into what I'm going through right now. This is so amazing. So I wanted not just for myself to hear, because I know I'm in a highly emotional state, so I may not be as objective about it. I needed another person who's removed from it to look at it even, and to make sure that I'm respecting myself, respecting my client, following the guidelines of what I'm obligated to do, etc. So this has been perfect for me today.
Okay. And you just put out a really interesting point. The more important a message is, or the more heavily loaded behind it, the more you want to slow down. And so I love that you have even not even just yourself, but someone else reading it for perspective. But this is where, even if you're sending just a quick text to somebody, taking an extra 10 seconds, 15 seconds to read it out loud will make, if it becomes a habit, this is why people think I'm insane. They're like, every time you send a text or read it out loud, I do. Like, unless I'm sending like, yes, like one word, right? But anything else, because there's so many times where the way that you thought you were communicating it, when you get in the habit of rereading, you will see you didn't actually say the thing you were meaning to say, right? Debbie, who loves double check, says double check that you're sending to the correct person. Sure. That's absolutely, I don't know, think about that one. But yes, make sure you're sending it to the right person too. And I guess we should include that now as a cardinal sin, as a text DMs. I don't know how many of you guys use group text messages with clients. I love group text, right? You, the lender, the client, some other way. Like you have a couple, two people and a client, I love group text messages. And sometimes with group text, the way it displays on a phone, you'll see certain names, but not other people, and you'll send it to the wrong group or the wrong person. That's a huge thing that we should add in terms of double checking, especially in the context of groups. Oh man, there's been some awkward situations I'm sure created based on that. All right. So
even emojis, because I did a voice text once, and I put emojis next to people's names just to kind of identify, like if it's a realtor, I put the R with the circle around it, that registered trademark, that symbol, And so if it's a realtor, I have that R next to him. Well, it was somebody that I was hoping would partner with me at EXP, and I also dated a person with that same name. And so it had the muscle arm next to his name. And so I said, when the voice text did it, it pulled up my ex with the muscle arm next to his name. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Not a terribly offensive emoji though, luckily.
No, but yeah. I was nowhere near muscly.
That's funny. That's really funny. You give me all these good things to add in, Debbie. This is fun. I like it. Lori, you add something?
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, I've learned the hard way the emoji not to use in a business message. Things that I never even knew about. Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, I think we should make a special note here for people with children. So my son, who's now 9, loves getting my phone and typing long strings of messages with emojis in them. And he'll just go through the phone and pick random emojis. But then you have your most recently used emojis, right? That little, on an iPhone, there's a little like, here's the ones you use. And so I have the ones I go to a lot. And every time after he's played with my phone, I've got all these random emojis in there that if I'm not careful, I'll use. And so like I use the finger pointing up a lot, which looks very similar to another finger pointing up, right? That very different meaning depending on the finger emoji you use. So we should do a whole training on, if you're going to use hand emojis, making sure you go slow enough to pick a little tiny font, right? I'm just about to turn 45 years old. I'm now holding my phone far enough away so I can see which emoji I'm using, that maybe I need to increase my font size. Anyway, all right. So let's go back to the situation Debbie's talking about, where you have an emotional, contentious something with a client, or you're going back and forth with another agent. If you're doing an email-based communication, which I think it's interesting because a lot of our communication these days is text message, but the more important stuff, or the more deeper stuff that sometimes could be a phone call, I find these days is still an email, right? There's things that like we used to in the old days, we pick up the phone. Now it's an email-based, whether it's just out of convenience or we're so used to it, or there's attachments, there's things you want to include. So a couple important things that are transaction-based when you're writing emails. If you're going to send a longer email to someone, you want to put almost like a hook or a summary sentence towards the beginning of what the rest of the email contains, right? If someone's going to sit down and read this email that you spent time crafting and putting things together, we can talk in a minute about bullet pointing and highlighting and when to use those things. But if you're going to spend time crafting the email, you want to put at the beginning what this email is about so someone can understand why they should take time to read the rest of it, right? Like, what are they going to get? Almost like writing a little story. And then this part, this is one of my personal pet peeves. I don't know if you guys find this, but if you're going to include an attachment, I think for really not only for readability, so someone's going to want to read your message, but also so that I always like to try to make this email easier. What's up, Darius? He's back at camera now. This one, if including an attachment, I believe you should summarize the attachment in the body of the email, just like bullet points, 1, 2, 3. If you've ever received an attachment from another agent, from a vendor, right? And it just says, see attachment. Is that something you're going to want to handle in the moment, or you're like, I'll leave it till later, I'll look at this 6-page PDF they just sent me, right? Yeah. Whereas if you're going to send that 3-page PDF or a 6-page PDF or whatever it is, you always say, hey, look, in the attached PDF, you'll find bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. That one trick, hack, whatever you want to call it, right, is going to make the fact that someone actually wants to read your emails and respond to them. These are the types of things that, again, taking this back to a listing presentation, I'm not going to explain all of these details to a seller in terms of communication skills. That'd be overkill. They don't want to know the details. But when you talk about, I'm obsessive with communication styles, which allows me to not only have a smoother transaction with the other agents, but we could actually end up saving you money because of the way that we communicate positions that really, really protect you. And you can take any one of these things and give an example if you felt like you're talking to someone who's a detail-oriented client. Does that make sense? Okay. I want to give you a little picture. I don't know, Debbie, you might have seen this one before, but I want to show you how in a text message, hold on, bullet points.
Explanation when I'm sending documents for digital signature as well. Being a TC, I don't know what conversation the agent has had with the client. So I want to make sure that I'm giving like a brief, okay, here's a modification with the price change and the new expiration date that you discussed with X agent, you know. And so I do a brief little, like, this is what's included that you're going to sign so that they're prepared. So I do that for digital signatures as well. And I think that that's really effective also.
I love that, Debbie. Love it. Love it. Love it. You can start working on the Cardinal sends of text, DMs, and email also. We can put together this list of things. And well, as we're about halfway through this, I will make a note. This is not to make any of you overthink your communication, get locked out in fear, right? Sometimes as you're learning these things, I've done this training, by the way, with everyone who's worked in my back office for 15 years, various versions of this. And it's almost like learning some new habits, right? It's like they're going to feel awkward at first. It's going to feel a little clunky until you get used to doing this sort of thing. So this is how I do text messages when we're talking about bullet points, because in an email, bullet points are easy, right? But the gray is one of my clients. This is a group text message with my business partner is my mother, Susan, and I'm the green boxes here. But you can see this is just, I grabbed a random screenshot. Look, yes, good question. I think we wait to get the results of the turbine inspection because depending on what it shows, it may drive the amount of work you may have to do. Do you concur? What's your opinion? Okay, agreed. Let's get a contractor to do this. Very good. Then I'm telling my partner, right? I'm using her name, Dash. Can you send Jay contact them before emoji, right? Little green checkbox, cleaning crew, emoji, landscape gardener. By taking things, because this could have been a paragraph of text, by putting things into bullet point form, not only is it easier to read, like just see his like block of text here. I'm not judging him for the way he wrote. My clients write any way they want, but this is easier to read. But also if you have a client who's detail oriented or analytical, right? About 25% of our clients are going to fall into that detail oriented category. When they see communicating in this way, it's going to scratch that anxiety itch they have where they're like, are they going to remember everything? Do they know what's going on? Like I like to give this example. You ever been to a restaurant where a server doesn't write down your order? They do that really cool trick where they're just like, they go around the table, they take everybody's order and they don't write it down. And you're like, how are they going to remember all that? And most of the time they do, but it provides just, it always makes me, maybe I'm just more anxious than most, but I don't think so. It always makes me a little like, are they going to get my order right? Do they know what it's going to do? So even though they can do it, right? Even though we can communicate any way we want, if we do things that lower the stress threshold down for our clients, that sense of making them more comfortable allows transactions to go smoother. Make sense? All right, we got about 5 minutes. I got 20 different more rules I can go over. But you guys got questions or things that you're curious about? What do you, Laurie? Are you nodding your head? Or
Yeah. So a long time ago, I discovered this app. It's called Big. It's just called Big. And you can type any word or words on your phone, and it makes them really big, like the full size of your screen. And you do the background and the letters, any combination of colors that you want. And then you can shake your phone and it'll make it blank. So it's really, really cool to play with, especially if you're doing a video email or something like that from like BombBomb or whatever. So because I do a lot of video email because I think it's more efficient, it's more personal. And I always encourage them, hey, you know what? This is fun. Send me a video email back, or a video text back. But I use that when I do a video email, especially to like a lead or something like that. I'll use the Big app and I'll put their name on it. It says, hi, Bob, in super big letters, and I'll make it flash. And I do that like in the start of my video. It says, hey, Bob. And so they know that I'm not spamming them with video, that this video is actually for Bob. And they love it because once I started doing that, I got more open rates and more click rates than any time ever in my BombBomb.
I love that, Lori. I haven't heard of that app. It's called the Make It Big app.
No, it's called Big.
It's Big. Okay.
Big.
Debbie, did you just put that on your phone? Did you have it?
I've had it. It was something that I learned through Krista's program when you're sending like home value reports or whatever, and you're sending a video text to somebody, like you put it on your phone, like this one's, have you heard? Like maybe it's a new loan program and you do something like this and then you like move it away from your face. It was a tactic that Krista taught at one point. So
you make it blank.
I haven't gotten that. I downloaded the app like 3 years ago and I haven't used it in the last 2.5 years. So I don't know about making it blink, but it was something we learned in the beginning of our video text so that it wouldn't feel spammy and that you could personalize it.
Yeah, and it gets the person's attention like, oh my, they made this video just for me. It says, hi, Bob.
It's kind of the thumbnail of the video text.
Yeah.
I love that. And you can even use it if you're recording, doing something on your phone. You can use it for social media stuff too. I love that. Yeah, love it. Anything else you want to add in? That was great. Okay. I want to throw one more thing in here, and this one, let's see. I'm editing this slide. I want to put this on the screen. This one, I could end in any sort of order, but I think this is a good one to wrap up in because this is back to this text message question. Yeah. So on a text message question, I believe asking more than one. I think asking more than a one question in an email or a text is just a recipe asking for someone to like not respond to any of it. Right? If you text someone or you email them and you ask multiple questions at once, multiple questions in a text, I want you to look next time someone texts you, just pay attention over the next couple of days. You're going to get someone texting you 3 different questions in there and you'll probably respond to one of them. You won't respond to all 3. This is the way when we communicate with our clients to really figure out what's the most important question you want to ask. And you could ask a series of questions. If you have a text message or an email that has multiple questions, it probably should be a phone call. Right? You could send her an audio message. You can send an audio message, send a video and say, hey, look, can we jump on a quick call? I got a couple questions. It's this, and this. Let's jump on a quick call. That I think is, imagine if every agent you did a deal with treated it that way. Instead of sending you a text with here's 4 or 5 different questions. That's my public service announcement for the day. Debbie, go ahead.
If I do have 4, because oftentimes I'll follow up with some of my agents and be like, okay, we've got these 5 listings and I've got questions about each listing. I'll do it in bullet points. So this listing, I have this question. This listing, I have this. So please respond to each question, and then they can respond using that same list.
And some of them do, and some of them probably still don't, correct? And that's what we can do everything we can. But this is just as a ground rule. If you have multiple questions, I mean, I get what you do, especially in the TC side. If you're being efficient on multiple files, that's all you can do is to use bullet points. It's the best you can. Separate it. You bold. You underline things. We can get into structure of emails. You probably know a lot about that. I'm going to pause it here for this morning, though, and just say thank you guys for being here on this 4th of July week. right? This is the fact that you are here showing up, and anyone listening to this recording this week, you're keeping your brain in gear regardless of what's going on for holidays. Like if you're in hustle mode, you got to keep your brain tuned in and motivated. And I think you'll look at the way you communicate this week a little differently. So Darius, good to see you. Debbie, Laurie, thanks for being here this morning, guys. All right, we'll see you tomorrow morning.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.